Okay, in this video we're going to take a look at writing equations of lines, and in this instance we're given some information that isn't as helpful as what you saw in the previous video. Yeah, actually I shouldn't say it isn't helpful, it just doesn't get you to where you want to go as easily. And so you have to know going in that you may not see where this is headed, and it's not going to be a quick problem, but you have to trust that your process and your habits you formed are going to get you there in the end. Now this says we have a line that passes through 1, 3, and 2, 1. It gives us two locations on the graph, but it doesn't give us the slope. We're going to have to figure that out. And it doesn't give us the y-intercept. We've got to figure that one out too. So basically, one of the tougher things here is just keeping track of what information you know and what you've calculated and where it goes, what it represents. So let's start by getting some intuition of this. Okay, this isn't necessarily asked to do in the problem, but I think it's a good way to give us the correct direction. If we just imagine a graph right here, and we imagine the first point of 1, 3, it's going to be right about there, and then we imagine a point of 2, 1, it's going to be right about here. So we're going to have a line that looks like this. Now the reason I'm drawing this is I want you to see that that line is negative. Okay, that's a negative slope. So when I calculate this, I need to make sure I end up with a negative number. I know that's what it looks like, so I got to make sure it matches what this actually appears like. Okay, my numbers should match my picture. Now you could actually get the slope from just counting on this picture, but let's see how to do it mechanically, because sometimes it's a little tough to do from the drawing depending on what your drawing looks like and how good you are at keeping track of things in your drawing. So let's look over here at our slope formula. Slope formula says we're going to take the y values and subtract them. Here's y1, here's y2, right here, and right here. So I'm going to take 1 minus 3. And the bottom I'm going to take x2 and x1, subtract those. 2 minus 1. Now when I calculate that out, I end up with negative 2 over 1. So I have a slope of negative 2. Alright, that's perfect. That matches what I think I should have. So I found part of the information I need to know. Now, I could have gotten that from the graph just by going down 2 over 1. And I can see it on the picture. So either way gets you to the same spot. So I remember, our goal here is to find this thing that says y equals something x plus something. And what we just found is our steepness, which goes right there. Negative 2 goes right there. Now we need to figure out where it crosses the y-axis. We don't know that either. We know it's up here somewhere, but we just don't know exactly what that value is. Sometimes you can see it on the graph, and sometimes it's a decimal or fraction you would never be able to tell unless you actually do the calculation. So let's follow our process again. We have y equals negative 2x plus b. Let's find a point to use that works well for us. You got this point or this one. Okay, neither one of them look that difficult. Pick whatever has the easiest numbers. I'm thinking this one has the smallest numbers. They're both positive. Let's use that. So my x-coordinate is 2, and my y-coordinate is 1. So I'm going to write this out. 1 equals negative 2 times 2 plus b. Let's solve for b. So 1 equals negative 4, and we multiply those together, plus b. And if I want to get b by itself, I'm going to add 4 to both sides. And I end up with b equals 5. Okay, and that looks like, yeah, that could be 5. I mean, my graph isn't perfect up here. It could cross up there. That's reasonable. So I have just found that number right there. So the last thing we need to do is write the equation that describes this. We should have y equals negative 2, which is the steepness of the line, times x plus 5, which is where that line crosses the y-axis. And there's my equation of a line. Now notice, that is a fairly lengthy process. You have to persevere through a problem like this and know that this is a calculation, has a lot of details in it. If there were some negative numbers, you would probably want to put everything here in parentheses and subtract them, and make sure that you didn't mess up on little things like subtracting a negative. Okay, be careful with your signs. A lot of details right there that can go wrong. Then after I get that value, no matter how ugly it is, even if it's a fraction or decimal that I don't know, just get that on a calculator, put it right there. Doesn't matter how bad it looks. If it's 3/17, it's 3/17. Just take what you get. And then I've got to use that value, and I got to run through and find this. And that number, in our case, happened to be a nice whole number, but it's not like that always. Sometimes that number is a decimal that you would never know off the top of your head, and you can't really read from the graph. You just have to trust that the calculations will get you where you want to go. At the end, you can always look back and say, does it look like it's in the right area? And if it's in the right general area, you're probably fine.